Welcome back to my channel, everyone. 3 tips here. What I have is some 14K scrap, some 10K pieces, and a little bit of 18K gold here. So what we're going to do is put a melt dish on here, zero it out. Now we're going to add the 14K stuff into this melt dish. Never fails. Got 53.1 grams. Let's add the 10K stuff in. Well, I blew that. 53.1 minus 68.4 equals 15.3 grams of 10K. Now, zero the scale. I'm going to add the 18K stuff in here. And we've got 2.8 grams, 2.9 grams of 18K. Let's take this out. We're going to use a little different process today. Let's take this out and start working on this. I'm going to begin by adding some hydrochloric acid to a clean beaker. Now for that much scrap, maybe 300 milliliters. Now we're going to incinerate the material in our melt dish, burn all the people off of here. Okay, now what we'll do is, some of it melted and stuck to our metal tweezer here. We're going to add the scrap now that it's been incinerated. We're going to add it right into this beaker with hydrochloric acid. I'm going to measure out some nitric acid in this beaker here. Let's go with 80 milliliters. 80 milliliters of nitric acid. There's going to be about a little over 1 1/3 ounces in there of pure gold yield from this scrap. So this is way more nitric than I need. This is going to give me about a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 hydrochloric, 1 nitric. I'm just going to add this right on in. Here you can see that the cold Aqua Regia is already starting to put metals in solution, but the solution is turning very dark, as you can see, very dirty, and we're going to see what happens by refining the gold straight away with Aqua Regia without inquarting it first with silver like we normally do. We're going to go straight to Aqua Regia and we're going to see what happens in here. I started this at 10:30 with the Aqua Regia boil. The time is now a little after 2 p.m., so it's taken about 3.5 hours to get to this point. We've evaporated it down to a syrup. The first thing you notice is the solution is filthy. It's a dirty solution. And the next thing you notice, if you look down in there, is we got a piece of gold that has passivated. What that means is that piece of gold had a high silver content. When the hydrochloric acid in the Aqua Regia came in contact with the high silver content in that piece of gold, it formed a hard crust of silver chloride around that piece of gold. There's still undissolved gold under that crust. This is called passivation, and this is why we do not want to go straight to Aqua Regia when we're dissolving our Karat gold. So now what we're going to do is take this down off the heat before we go completely dry. You'll notice that the fumes are gone. That means that the excess nitric has been driven out of here. I used 80 milliliters of nitric acid in that reaction. There's only about 40 grams of pure gold in here. I could have dissolved 40 grams of pure gold with 25 milliliters of nitric acid. So there's the second thing wrong with this process. I just wasted about 40 or 50 milliliters of nitric acid. I had to boil it down to rid the solution of that excess nitric. Now I'm going to rehydrate with some hydrochloric acid. The Aqua Regia puts everything in solution: silver, nickel, zinc, copper, and that makes a very dirty solution. So what we're going to do now is add some ice. You're going to see a ton of silver chloride come out of solution here. Notice there's a bunch of solids caked up on the bottom of the beaker. That's another problem. Let's look on the bottom of our beaker, and you can see there's a bunch of trash down there. It's all probably a bunch of silver chloride. It's going to have to be dealt with. I know I sound kind of contemptuous here. It's because I am. This is not the way to go. Inquarting with silver and imparting with nitric first, before we go to Aqua Regia, will eliminate all of these problems. All right, let's go ahead and get some of this, get this liquid pulled through a filter. Here you can see in the beaker we've got quite a bit of material left that did not dissolve. That's all pieces of gold that passivated. Again, passivation happens when there's silver. The silver in the alloy of the gold, the Karat gold, reacts with hydrochloric acid and Aqua Regia. It forms a hard crust of silver chloride that prevents the Aqua Regia from getting to the rest of the gold to dissolve it. Passivation. Alright, let's get the rest of this solution in here. And now what we'll have to do, if you look in the bottom of the beaker, what we're going to have to do now is get that metal out of there, put it into a crucible, melt it into a button, test it to see what carat the gold is going to be. There's a bunch of silver chloride there. We'll have to test the button that we melt up from that material in the bottom of this beaker with acid, with a gold testing kit. Then we're going to have to inquart it with silver, part it out with nitric acid, just like we normally do in the first place. None of that gold is going to dissolve until I get the crust of silver chloride off of it. And even then, After I get the crust of silver chloride off of it, as soon as I put it back in the Aqua Regia, another crust of silver chloride will form and prevent the acids from dissolving that gold. Surprising, this is all pulling through this filter fairly quickly. The amount of junk we got in here. Here's what's on our filter. I'm going to set this back out of the way for right now. I'm going to add this gold solution to this beaker, right back into the same beaker that we just took it out of. Now we're going to add some Stump Out by Bonide, which is sodium metabisulfite. I'm going to precipitate out the pure gold. Here we go. I should do it 5 spoons, should be enough. Let's reach down in here and get a stannous test. Make sure we've got all the gold precipitated. And you can see by the stannous test, all the gold has come down. While I wait for that gold to settle out that we just precipitated, what I'll do is take our funnel that has our solids in it, and we'll get down in here with a see if we can get it down into this crucible. Now let's take this down on the melt table. We'll see if we can melt this into a little button. I'm adding some borax here. Then I'm going to add a little bit of sodium carbonate. And hopefully this sodium carbonate will aid in getting the silver to melt. Here we go. I've allowed it to settle completely. Now we're going to pour off the waste solution into a temporary waste container. There's what the gold looks like. Now what we'll do is rinse the liquid off of here. I'm adding some hydrochloric acid. Now we're going to set this up on the heat up here and boil it in some hydrochloric acid. It's been boiling in hydrochloric now for a few minutes. Let's take it down and dump off this hydrochloric acid. There you go. You can see that the gold has a totally different color now. I will rinse it with a little water. Now we'll set it up on our burner. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid. Put in a little bit of sulfuric acid, not much. Now I'll add some nitric acid. I'm going to add, let's see here. I'm going to start out with 1, 2, 3, 4 shots, 3 milliliters, 12 milliliters altogether. That took about 20-25 minutes or so. I added a little extra nitric, but then I let it boil down to get rid of all those excess fumes. So now we'll just pull it down here and let it cool off. I added ice to that solution and a whole bunch of silver chloride precipitated out. That's why we add the ice. That's a good thing, so it's not a bad thing. Now what we'll do is go ahead and filter the solution. This is looking straight down with the light on how this is going to come out. I'm going to put some stump out in here now and precipitate the pure gold. That's 4 spoons. I think that should just about do it for us. I've allowed this to settle out completely. Now what we'll do is get set up over here, and we'll get us a waste container. And pour off the waste. Let's get the gold down into a melt dish. Bang. Take it over here on the melt table. Melt this up in an ingot. Alrighty, there we go. That looks pretty good. Oh yeah, that came out pretty good for us. Here's our pure gold ingot. Here's our button of other metal that we melted earlier in the video. And I'll probably just throw this in with the next batch that I do. Let's see what we got to weight. We were expecting 39.3. Let's see what the actual yield is here. Oh. 38.7. That's fairly close to what we were expecting. That's a bit of a surprise for me, but we'll take it. All right, this will conclude the video. I'd like to thank everyone for watching.